big component of my research is to understand how to stabilize an economy where there is a high level of public debt. Public debt may be there for good reason, because we use it to stabilize the economy, but once it's there, it creates vulnerability to the strange and very disruptive crisis in which people cause economic damages by expecting economic damages to happen. And this is what creates an important research agenda, understanding how to deal with those situations. Suppose that people wake up in the morning and think that Italy is actually in a bad shape. By simply thinking that Italy is in a bad shape, they forecast low growth, they forecast low tax revenue, they forecast deficit, increasing debt, then they start to charge a high interest rate on the sovereign debt, on debt that they buy. We know that this interest rate goes into the market, goes into borrowing costs by household, borrowing costs by firms. So in a sort of self-fulfilling way, their idea becomes today an extremely uncomfortable situation where people cannot really borrow, cannot really spend, they become reluctant to spend. And when you ask these people, are you basing your judgment on a sound analysis of fundamentals, they reply, yes, of course, without realizing that it's not something that is written in the economic fundamentals, in the economic structure, but it's something that is sort of projected by their own expectations. The ability of the central bank to stand ready as a guardian on the sovereign debt market, making sure that markets do not go off what could be a reasonable assessment of fundamentals, is a function that many central banks, most central banks in advanced countries do. We were not aware of it because it was this kind of functions that the least you talk about it, the better. At least you don't want to talk it in public. We need to understand exactly better how can a central bank avoid this very disruptive and painful situation. So the lab experiment that we had is basically the period between 2010 and 2011, where in Europe, different from all other places in the world, we had this kind of dynamics in the market. Countries like Spain, Italy, Ireland, all the crisis countries were subject to this market move. The ECB was late because we live in a monetary union which is not well designed yet. We are completing the monetary union, so we could do it only in 2012. And in that period, we saw the damage of that kind of situation. At that point, people say, well, this is the real cost of the euro. You come to the euro, you forgo the ability to stop this crisis because in a way the central banks are not doing what they should do, which is to stop this kind of crisis. So there was a period of strong criticism of the euro. It turned out that it was not the euro that made the problem, but it was the problem that the ECB was not equipped to intervene. We needed to wait until the institutional development of the ECB could make them active. That happened with the so-called OMT's program in 2012. The outright monetary transactions program by the ECB, which is a big word, but what it means is that the ECB can finally step in and stop markets charging extremely high interest rate on sovereign debt. It is something that central banks do. Bank of Japan bought a lot of that, UK bought a lot of that, US bought a lot of that. We learned through the crisis today that there is a very important function of central banks to be sort of the guardian of the sovereign debt market, making sure that there is no overcharging, belief-driven, self-fulfilling crisis, avoidable speculation. This is easy to understand in today's situation because basically central bank at zero interest rate can issue as much money as they want. Everybody's happy to hold the monetary abilities. Now the subject of my lecture is to show that actually the same miracle, the same ability of central bank to be the guardian of the bond market can actually be translated, can happen also in normal circumstances. So when we'll try to get out of this crisis with an interest rate will come back to positive territory, there will still be room for central bank to play exactly this function, sort of shield our economies from the real dangers of avoidable self-fulfilling crisis.